There are some odd rumors about a possible feud between Raiders star pass rusher Maxx Crosby and the newest minority owner of the Raiders, Tom Brady. And what's even worse is that the current quarterback Geno Smith hinted at a rift between Crosby and the Raiders organization. So right now, if you've been following the Raiders, you've been following the news closely, you know that there was a story out there about Maxx Crosby. It was a big deal. It sparked trade rumors when he was shut down on injured reserve with 3 games left remaining in the season. And he disagreed with the Raiders' decision to do that, and there's speculation about him possibly moving on and the fact that he might be frustrated with the Raiders. Well, there's even a new report right after Pete Carroll was fired saying that many around the league believe that if the relationship between Maxx Crosby and the Raiders remains strained, Vegas would be open to trading its star. And the reason why this is now a big deal is because it was really easy to just blame the whole shutting Crosby down for the remainder of the season on Pete Carroll. But now that Pete Carroll is out of the picture, he's been fired. Clearly, it was not Pete Carroll's decision to shut down Maxx Crosby. And if Crosby is still frustrated with the Raiders, that means that whoever made that decision is still currently employed by the Las Vegas Raiders. And remember, this was a huge deal. He vehemently disagreed with the Raiders' decision, and Jay Glazer was the one who reported this, a big-time NFL reporter, part of Fox Sunday. Clearly, Maxx Crosby spoke to him and told him how he felt, and you had the big memo out there. Crosby has left the building. Elvis is in the building. Well, Crosby has left the building. And what made this even worse is when Crosby was placed on injured reserve, it kind of felt like he was sort of, rubbing it in the Raiders' face and trying to show people around the league that he's actually healthy. He showed this clip of him playing basketball with his daughter, and he was also, playing on the trampoline. You could see him taking shots. He's supposed to be having, a serious injury. And it was kind of like his way of saying, hey, I'm not really injured. They're full of shit. Here's my proof showing you that I'm perfectly fine, even though it turns out he was not exactly perfectly fine. And it kind of makes you wonder, what is the whole point about all this? Well, there was a rumor out there by Grant Cohen, who is a beat reporter for the San Francisco 49ers. And the reason why I found this very interesting is because this guy does make videos about the Niners. He's kind of, let's just say, enthusiastic and passionate. I admire his passion when he covers the Niners.
With me, bro. Do you think you're representing the 49ers well right now?
But think about this. He has this rumor out here about a potential rift between Brady and Crosby. We're going to show it right now. And the reason why I think it's so interesting is because he really has no incentive to make this up. He's just talking about what he's hearing from friends around the league. And he's not exactly out there trying to get clicks off this, trying to, promote this story for his Niners platform. He's just out of nowhere saying something that he heard about the Raiders, a team he doesn't cover at all.
Apparently, the relationship between Maxx Crosby and Tom Brady.
What's up, everyone? I have teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook to bring a great offer to you now that the playoffs are happening right now in this football season in 2026. Right now, new customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. If you didn't hear me, listen up real quick. New customers turn $5 into $300 if your bet wins. Paid in bonus bets. The crown is yours. DraftKings Sportsbook is the best place to bet touchdowns. The next great touchdown is coming, and you can bet on it. One thing you can do to stay in on the action is to use your bonus bets on same game parlays. Yes, same game parlays give you a shot at an even bigger payout. And hey, do you love the thrill of live betting? Well, DraftKings has you covered. You can bet on live star player props and in progress games right as they happen in real time during the playoffs. It is freaking great. So hey, what are you waiting for? Sign up using my promo code Wi-Fi. That's Wi-Fi. The link is in the pinned comment and description below. Thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook.
Apparently, the relationship between Maxx Crosby and Tom Brady has gone sour, and the Raiders are looking to trade Maxx Crosby for 3 first-round picks. They know they can get one,
that'd be nice.
2 for him. They're looking to get 3 for him. And apparently, something happened recently between Crosby and Brady.
Now, the timeline for when Cohen posted this was right before Pete Carroll was fired, literally the Sunday before he was fired. And he's talking about a rift between Brady and Crosby, and the only thing that could have happened there was the fact that Crosby was shut down. I like the idea of the Raiders maybe getting 3 picks for Crosby if they're going to trade him away. Clearly, there's an issue there. There's some rumblings in the background. This guy, I feel like, has no incentive to really promote this story, so you got to take it seriously. And the fact that these rumors are still out there about Crosby, it hasn't been resolved. Pete Carroll is already gone. Just sounds like maybe Brady was the one, or SPYTech, both of them, they're pretty much a unit together, made this decision to shut down Crosby, and Crosby disagreed with it. And also take a look at this. This is something I find really interesting. It kind of blew my mind. We know Geno Smith is likely pissed the F off that Pete Carroll is fired, and I'm sure a lot of Raiders fans obviously don't care what Geno Smith has to say, but Geno Smith did post on Instagram immediately after Pete Carroll is fired. He had this picture out here where it shows him and Pete Carroll together, and he has a GOAT emoji. He's the GOAT, right? And then he also did this on Instagram. Meanwhile, let me add that he removed all his Raiders stuff on Instagram. He recently changed it back. We'll go take a look at that in a second, but he had that with Pete Carroll, and he also included this picture of him, Pete Carroll, and Maxx Crosby. And I just feel like, these players never say something directly. Geno Smith is still technically under contract with the Raiders. He's not going to try to cause a significant rift in case he wants to still get paid that $18 million guaranteed plus his base salary to maybe be a mentor if he can't find another gig next season. So he's not going to completely burn a bridge. But I found it interesting that he wanted to point out that Crosby was here. It's almost like these are the guys who I think are on my same side, have my same belief of how the organization should have been run, right, in the 2025 season. I find that very interesting. Now, like I said, originally after Pete Carroll was fired, Geno Smith unfollowed everybody on Instagram, also removed everything Raiders from his Instagram totally, even changed his profile picture. But since this kind of went viral on X, viral on Instagram and different social media platforms, he has since changed it back. And now you have Geno Smith with this, little Raiders logo in the background. And he has this one single post here. Keep in mind, he's still followed by Maxx Crosby, he's still followed by Colton Miller, and he's showing himself with Greg Olsen, the interim offensive coordinator after Chip Kelly was fired. Has some pics of him, with the Raiders this year, saying that he's grateful for it all. And he plays a song about this long journey, right? Long journey of this long career he's had. Year 13 shows him with Genty, and also shows that picture with Pete Carroll right here, and also goes on to show that other picture with him and Pete, Jackson Powers Johnson, and Maxx Crosby also, and that picture that we alluded to earlier with Maxx Crosby and Pete. I don't know what it means here, man. It could mean absolutely nothing. Him with Bowers, of course, maybe just reflecting on the season. But originally, before he showed this, it was just this empty Instagram coupled with those two images that we showed you a little bit earlier. And we got the rumors of the Tom Brady rift in the background. And general manager John SPYTech was asked about the possibility of trading Maxx Crosby at his press conference at the end of the season. I think this was an interesting question. Basically, they were asking the guy, is Crosby a tradable player? Is he somebody you consider not tradable at all? Like, he's way too good. I consider him not tradable, unless of course it's 3 first-round picks and you're rebuilding anyways. I don't know. We'll talk more about this in a second, but check this out.
Once the offseason commences, obviously a lot of teams around the league will inquire about Maxx Crosby in a trade. Do you view him as a untradeable, untouchable player moving forward once the offseason starts?
Do you, SPYTech?
I have a lot of respect for Maxx and how much he loves to play the game. And I've had the opportunity in the last several weeks to spend a lot of time with Maxx. And I think it's been well documented that he didn't love the idea of not playing football. And I think you always want that from your best players. In fact, I think that's why they're your best players. So I love Maxx. He embodies what a Raider is. I've been pretty upfront with that from the day that I sat up here almost a year ago. And I continue to believe that.
Okay, he embodies what a Raider is. Answer the question, dude. We asked you, is he considered a player who is not touchable, not tradable? And you say, I've gotten to know Maxx Crosby for a long time. This literally reminds me of the meme when you ask a politician a direct question and they say, well, growing up in a middle-class family was tough. I get it. Obviously, SPYTech is going to keep the cards close to his chest, but this just makes it seem like, man, it's up in the air. And this is my biggest problem with this. I know people are going to say, oh, it's not a big deal. Crosby has a Raiders tattoo. He's a Raiders for life. Oh, there's no way the Raiders organization would trade this guy. He's such a good player. Then why don't people just come out and say it? Like if Crosby is so committed to the Raiders, why doesn't he just come out there and say, hey, yeah, I'm under contract. I just signed an extension this past year. Obviously, I'm staying with the Raiders and I'm looking forward to, making this thing go right, making this thing go in the right direction. He's on 2 podcasts. He's on the Let's Go podcast and he has his own The Rush. This guy has plenty of platforms Maxx go out there and debunk all the trade rumors, debunk all the rumors out there that he's unhappy with the Raiders organization, and he's not doing it. And John Spytek has the platform, and also Tom Brady has a platform to go out there and say, Maxx Crosby is not tradable, not even on the table. Mark Davis, to his credit, around the trade deadline these past 2 years, went out and debunked all the Maxx Crosby trade rumors, saying Maxx Crosby is not going to be traded. He did it then because, hey, it was just open and shut that Crosby was going to stay. Right now, it's very open. Seems like something's going on. I hope not. We're going to give some more information on this. Maxx Crosby, even though he complained about being placed on IR, had meniscus surgery, and the recovery begins. He just showed this picture of him celebrating having surgery on January 8th. Big deal. This guy's going to try to get back and have a legendary year 8. That's what he alluded to. Rest and reset and reload. Year 8 will be the greatest year yet. And I hope that this year is in a Raiders uniform. We'll find out, because here's the deadline for the Raiders. This is what you need to pay attention to if you want to know if your Maxx Crosby jersey is going to be expired or not. For some reason, I did not buy a knockoff jersey from China. I went out there and bought the real thing, spent over $100, and I am just hoping that this is not another jersey that goes expired, that's no longer relevant because one of my favorite players is on a different team. Well, here's the date we got to pay attention to, man. The Raiders have until March 13th, 2026, of course, this year, the third day of the new league year, a couple days after free agency, basically. And that's the deadline to decide whether to trade Maxx Crosby. Because if they do not trade him by that date, his $29 million base salary for the 2027 season becomes fully guaranteed. It makes it a lot more difficult for them to be able to trade him if they don't do it after March 13th. So that is the deadline. That's when we'll get some clarity. I think if it is going to happen, if Crosby is going to move on from the Raiders organization, it's going to happen close to that date, because you're going to have a lot of suitors, man. You're going to have all the top playoff teams be trying to get this guy. And if you can get 3 first-round picks, I mean, you're going to have pretty much an auctioning bid. And you're going to have to wait till the very last day to get that done, to get your full leverage. I hope it doesn't happen, but if the Raiders are completely rebuilding around Genty, the #1 overall pick, whether that's Fernando Mendoza, who I think the Raiders should grab, or Dante Moore, along with Brock Bowers, maybe this is what you got to do with a brand new head coach if you get a young head coach. I don't know. I'm not the one making the decisions here, but we're trying to figure out who's making the decisions here. Who decided to shut down Maxx Crosby with 3 games remaining, knowing that it could piss him off, knowing that he was not down to do it? Well, there's really nobody else we could point to at this point, and it's just so obvious, and we can't be in denial here. It's got to be that guy, Tom Brady, man. It's got to be Tom Brady, and that's why you have the rumors about the rift between Brady, and you have this article by ESPN that came out after Pete Carroll was fired, talking about the Raiders' 2025 collapse and Tom Brady's influence. Talked about the fact that Brady went out there to try to court Ben Johnson ahead of the 2025 season. Instead, ended up landing Pete Carroll. And what's even more revealing about this story is you got agents of players giving the lowdown to these reporters about how this team is run. You have an agent of a Raiders player. And by the way, a lot of these guys are on 1-year contracts, so I feel like they kind of don't give a shit, and they're kind of being open about what's going on with the Raiders because they know they're going to hit free agency anyways. One person said Brady has a lot to say in the organization. And another person already knew Pete was going to be gone ahead of time, saying Pete will be gone and Spytek will stay because Brady will want it that way. Mark Davis needed an influx of cash to operate at a different level. With new cash comes strings, and those strings are Tom Brady. So because Tom Brady and a group of investors bought a minority piece of the Raiders organization, Mark Davis is trying to dress this up and say, oh, well, I just really want to listen to Tom Brady because I think he's so brilliant. Look, I think an element of that is true, but also Brady and his little co-investors put a lot of cash into Mark Davis's pocket. They're going to want to have a big input on how this team is run. Mark Davis has not been shy about it. In December of 2024, he said, I want Tom to have a huge voice. No question about it. It's part of building the infrastructure of the organization. A football person on that side of it, that's not a coach or a general manager. He's somebody who can oversee the whole picture. I believe Tom, come time, will be the person who can do that. Antonio Pierce even talked about Brady's influence, saying, even starting with the firing of me, I think with me, That one was Brady's call. Tony Pierce said that on Sirius XM Mad Dog Radio. And you also had Mike Mayock, the former general manager, sort of take a shot at the Raiders organization. I agree with this here though, man. He said, had the Raiders kept Bisaccia after the 2021 season, after John Gruden was forced out with the email leak, Bisaccia, obviously the interim head coach, well, Mayock says that they would be competing for division titles, not the first pick in the draft. So he's throwing some shade there, saying they should have kept Bisaccia, and I guarantee almost every Raiders fan watching this video right now likely agrees with that. At least for one more season in 2022, that should have been the call. There's more info here about some of Brady's decisions that definitely backfired. Remember, it was reported that Brady was not in favor of signing the free agent quarterback Sam Darnold, and now we've seen this guy ball out with the Seattle Seahawks. So the team traded for quarterback Geno Smith. Well, Darnold obviously went to Seattle, and then you have somebody, a third agent of a Raiders player who was on the team this past year, said Tom definitely influences everything that goes on there. The coaching hire, the Geno Smith trade, the Matthew Stafford recruitment at the ski trip that kind of failed. He was involved with all that. So Geno Smith was a Tom Brady move when the Raiders could have gone out there and pursued Sam Darnold. To be fair, in this report, Pete Carroll is thrown under the bus along with his son, the offensive line coach, Brennan Carroll. You had an agent of a Raiders offensive lineman say that the position group met multiple times on their own with Geno Smith and Genty, specifically without coaches, so that they could talk to them about how they wanted the offensive line to create blocks. They were trying to figure it out together because the offensive line coach was too incompetent, I guess, and an agent said they have never heard of this in the history of working in the league. And an agent of a Raiders player said there's a lot of nepotism going on, the fact that Brennan Carroll had a job. But back to Brady, you got Ken Hirok, who's a former Raiders player and personnel director, the guy who helped Mark Davis get McDaniel, Ziegler, Pierce, and Telesco. He's criticizing Tom Brady here, saying if he's going to help with the organization, he needs to be there 24/7. That's the way I look at it. I don't want an outside advisor giving me advice on something for an hour and then that's it. A former Raiders assistant coach also criticized Tom Brady, saying they got a guy who calls games on Sunday, giving them input on who they should hire and sign as a QB. It's a full-time job running a football team and making decisions in personnel. Tom has never run a team. I keep telling people, like, Tom has all this influence, but Tom isn't in the building and he doesn't have any experience with this. And here's the kicker when it comes to Maxx Crosby, a personnel executive. And this is according to ESPN, you take it or leave it, said that Crosby is a very principled dude and they believe his time is done in Vegas. Now, I know there was a lot of negative shit in that report there by ESPN, but I would say the one positive you could take away from that is the fact that the offensive line of the Raiders, which was the main reason why the offense was so bad last year, seems like the main issue with it was the offensive line coach, Brennan Carroll, and the fact that there's a lot of nepotism going on. You weren't allowed to call the guy out for being incompetent because he was the head coach, Pete's son. Seems like if the Raiders could solve that, the offensive line coach, not necessarily a personnel issue, then this offense can get back to being average, because I thought the defense did better than expected last year, especially due to the fact that they had to be on the field a shitload because they were losing the time of possession battle. I still think things could be looking up. Hopefully, Tom Brady kind of figures out this relationship with Maxx Crosby and Crosby could stay with the Raiders organization, and hopefully he is in the building more often instead of hanging out at parties, chasing around different supermodels, and spending too much time in the broadcast booth rather than the front office.